Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're heading way back to the late Cretaceous, specifically Russia,
Right.
to look into a dinosaur called Arkharavia. Our main source is the Wikipedia entry for it.
Yep, that's our starting point.
And our mission, really, is to figure out what this thing was. What do we actually know for sure? What's still, debated?
And why does it even matter? It seems a bit obscure, maybe.
Exactly. But the story behind its classification, how it was found, it's pretty fascinating. Kind of a winding road.
Oh, definitely. It's a great example of how science works, how understanding evolves. It's not static.
Okay, so basics first. The name Arkharavia. That's pretty straightforward, isn't it?
Yeah, it literally means Arkhara Road,
Yeah.
named right after where they found the fossils.
Makes sense. And it was described when?
2010.
2010, yeah. By Alifanov and Bolatsky. They named the type species Arkharovia heterocoica.
And the spot was the Uderchukin Formation in Russia, late Cretaceous. So time and place locked in. Right. And that context, the formation, it tells us about the world it lived in. That initial description set the stage, basically.
Okay, but the actual evidence for Arkharavia, this is where it gets a little tricky.
Mm-hmm.
The holotype, the defining specimen, it's just one bone, right? A single anterior caudal vertebra.
Yeah, a tailbone from near the front of the tail. But, and this is a big but.
There were other bits found initially. A tooth, some other tail bones closer to the body.
Exactly. A tooth and some proximal caudal vertebrae. And for a while, they were thought to be Arkharavia too.
But not anymore.
Nope. Turns out, later research, a closer look, those bits, the tooth and the proximal vertebrae, they probably belong to a hadrosaur.
A duck-billed dinosaur. Completely different animal.
Totally different. An indeterminate hadrosaur, meaning they know it's a hadrosaur, just not which specific kind.
Wow. So the original Arkharavia was like a Frankenstein monster of fossils.
Aha, sort of, yeah. Like putting together IKEA furniture with parts from two different boxes. It really, really changed things.
I bet. So you take away the hadrosaur bits.
And you're left with just that one anterior caudal vertebra, that single bone. It forces you to refocus.
It really shows how careful you have to be comparing every little detail.
Absolutely. It's that meticulous comparison. What looked like one animal turned out to be at least two. Science refining itself right there.
Okay, so let's zoom in on that one bone, the vertebra. It's described as weakly heterocellulous. That's a term.
Yeah, it sounds technical, but break it down. Heterocellulous refers to the shape of the ends where vertebrae connect.
Oh.
Instead of being flat or like a ball and socket, they're saddle-shaped. Imagine two Pringles chips fitting together.
Pringles. Okay, got it. That makes sense. Good for flexibility, I guess.
Exactly. Flexible but stable. Now, Arkharavia's is weakly heterocellulous.
Meaning the saddle shape isn't super pronounced, it's more subtle?
Precisely. Less dramatic curvature. And that little detail, that weakly part, becomes a really important clue for classifying it, for figuring out its family tree among the sauropods.
Those big, long-necked guys.
Yeah.
Which brings us to its slightly messy classification history. Initially, with all the bones mixed up.
Right, the vertebra plus the hadrosaur bit?
They thought it was a titanosauriform sauropod, and maybe even related to Chibutosaurus, which is from Argentina.
Yeah, Cretaceous Argentina. It sounds like a stretch geographically.
It does.
But, based on the features they saw then, including those misidentified bones, it wasn't totally out there. It suggested possible connections across continents.
But then, whoops, hadrosaur bones, take those away.
Right. Take those away, focus on the single vertebra, and the picture changes.
So where does it sit now? The grand dinosaur family tree.
Okay, so based only on that holotype vertebra, the current thinking is it's an indeterminate symphospondylin.
Whoa, another big word. Symphospondylin.
Huh. Yeah, so think sauropod is the big category. Titanosauriform is a subgroup. Symphospondylin is a group within titanosauriforms.
Okay.
These guys often had vertebrae with lots of internal air spaces, spongy bone almost, helped keep their huge skeletons lighter.
Ah, makes sense for giants. So Arkharavia is in that group, Symphospondylii, but we can't pin it down more specifically.
Exactly. The link to Chibutosaurus seems off now. That was likely due to the mixed fossils. We know the broader group, but its exact spot, still uncertain, indeterminate.
It really drives home that science is a process, doesn't it? Constant updates, corrections.
Totally. It's not about finding the answer carved in stone. It's about refining the questions and interpretations as we learn more.
Now, the place it was found, the Amur region in Russia, described as a dinosaur hotspot for the late Cretaceous.
Oh, yeah. It really was. Lots of fossils coming out of there from that time. Suggests a really rich ecosystem.
So Arkharavia wasn't rattling around alone. It had neighbors,
Definitely not alone. The Wikipedia entry lists quite a few contemporaries from the same formation.
including lots of duckbills, right?
Yeah.
Lambeosaurines, the ones with the fancy crests. Amurosaurus, Olorodontine, Tyrannosaurus.
Those hollow-crested guys. And also Saurolophines, the ones without the big hollow crest, like Kerberosaurus and Willogosaurus.
So a whole herd of different plant eaters sharing the landscape.
Yeah, picturing that environment is key. You have Arkharavia, this medium to large sauropod, alongside all these varied hadrosaurs. Who was eating what? Were they competing? It adds so much texture to the picture.
Okay, but given we only have that one definite bone and the earlier mix-up, Arkharavia is called a dubious genus.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds bad. Like, we should just forget about it.
No, not necessarily. Dubious genus, or nomen dubium, is a technical term. It doesn't mean the fossil isn't real or unimportant.
Okay, so what does it mean?
It means the holotype material, that single vertebra, isn't distinct enough on its own to be sure it represents a unique genus compared to other similar sauropods.
So maybe it's a known type of sauropod, but we just don't have enough of this specimen to be certain it's different. We're certain it's the same.
Exactly. Can we confidently diagnose it as something new and unique based only on this bone? Right now, the consensus is probably not. It's too limited.
So it's like a question mark hanging over it.
A bit, yeah. But even with that question mark, the bone still tells us something important.
Which is?
It confirms that some fuspondylan sauropods, these relatively advanced titanosaurs, were definitely living in that part of Russia during the late Cretaceous. It's a data point, a piece of the ecosystem puzzle.
And maybe more fossils will turn up one day.
Always possible. A more complete skeleton could solidify its status, maybe show it as distinct, or maybe link it clearly to another known genus. That's the hope.
The Wikipedia page also mentions a few related studies, right? Something about Nusodotin.
Yeah, a 2013 paper on Lusodotin adelansis. That helps understand the broader group, the basal titanosauriforms, where Arkharavia was initially kind of placed, gives context to its general lineage.
And one on Olorodotin. That's one of the hadrosaurs found nearby.
Right, a 2011 paper on Olorodotin arurensis. It highlights just how common and diverse those hadrosaurs were there, which makes you see how the initial mix-up with the bones could happen. Lots of different fossils around.
And then the original 2010 paper that started it all, describing Arkharavia.
Alifanov and Bolotsky's paper. That's the foundation, the first interpretation that all the later work builds on or revises.
Okay, so wrapping up our deep dive on Arkharavia. What's the takeaway? We've got this late Cretaceous Russian dinosaur.
Known for sure from just one tailbone.
Initially thought to include some hadrosaur bits, which confused things.
Right. Now seen as an indeterminate symphospondylon sauropod.
And technically a dubious genus, because that one bone isn't quite enough to be sure it's unique.
Still important evidence that these kinds of sauropods were part of that ancient Russian ecosystem, that dinosaur hotspot.
It really is a mini story about how science works, isn't it? Finding clues, interpreting them, finding more clues, reinterpreting.
Exactly. Self-correction is built into the process. Our understanding isn't fixed. It grows and changes with the evidence. Arkhavia's story is a perfect snapshot of that.
It really makes you think, you know?
Yeah.
What can just one fossil, one bone, tell us about a whole lost world? And what does this whole process say about our drive to figure things out?
Will we ever find more Arkharavia bones and solve the mystery? Or will it stay as this tantalizing hint?
A single, slightly saddle-shaped clue from the deep past. Definitely food for thought. Thanks for digging into this one with us.